Hi, it's Chen. Most of us find it impossible to take conspiracy theories really seriously, often dismissing it as a fringe obsession. I mean, when you hear allegations that the world is flat, that mankind never really landed on the moon, or speculations that Adolf Hitler lived past the end of the Second World War, it's hard to get on board with such theories, especially when doing so would align you with extreme conspiracy theorists wearing metaphorical tinfoiled hats. And a lot of the time, there really is nothing more to these suppositions than suspicion and wild imagination. However, there are times that even those we regard as wild and absurd conspiracies turn out to be horrifyingly true. Even now, people would have a hard time believing that these stories are more factual than we would like them to be, even when irrefutable evidence providing the validity of such theories is shown to them. But of course, our refusal to believe the facts before us doesn't make the truth any less evidence. So in this video, we're going to talk about 7 conspiracy theories that actually turned out to be true. Number 1, CIA experiments on mind control. While allegations that governments are guilty of conducting mind control experiments may seem a bit outrageous, the US Central Intelligence Agency has been proven to have done just that during the 50s and 60s. The CIA program was called MKUltra, and its objective was to develop biological and chemical weapons that could be used during the Cold War. To accomplish this, the CIA formed front companies that forged partnerships with around 100 institutions, including universities and hospitals. Through these partnerships, the intelligence agency managed to drug many individuals with hallucinogens, particularly LSD. They also put their subjects under hypnosis and even tortured them through electroshock therapy. Eventually, it was the US Senate's Church Committee that uncovered this morally questionable government program, but a lot of the documents pertaining to MKUltra were disposed of in the 70s as ordered by the CIA director at the time. Number 2, a Gaydar was once used in Canada to identify homosexuals. Back in the 1960s, the Canadian government decided to crack down on homosexuals working in the military and the police forces, as well as those appointed in civil positions. Initially, they assigned private investigators to look into the lives of government employees and determine their sexual preference. However, this was too time-consuming and costly, so the government tapped the expertise of Carleton University professor Frank Robert Wake to build what became the fruit machine, which they thought could easily identify homosexuals. The machine displayed various erotic images to individuals being tested, and if there is pupil dilation while staring at photos of the same sex, these people were removed from their government posts. And because of this machine, more than 400 government employees lost their jobs and almost 10,000 people were documented as suspects. Number 3, the NSA and GCHQ spied on their own citizens. In the middle of 2013, the newspaper The Guardian published an article reporting that the US National Security Agency, or NSA, had been gathering the telephone records of millions of American citizens, and they did this under a top-secret court order. Telecom company Verizon was directed to submit all of its telephone data to the agency on a regular basis. It was later revealed that the NSA also tapped into the servers of several internet firms, including Google, Yahoo, Facebook, and Microsoft, for a surveillance program called PRISM. Britain's government communications headquarters, GCHQ, was also accused of gathering data on its citizens through PRISM. These allegations were then revealed by ex-CIA systems analyst Edward Snowden, who has since been charged with theft of government as well as violation of the Espionage Act. Snowden, of course, since then has been granted asylum in Russia until 2020. Number 4, communists had infiltrated the US and its government. Many Americans were once haunted by the thought that communist spies were all around them, hiding in plain sight. These rumored planted agents were supposedly at the ready inside American territory when the time came that their government has finally decided to launch a full-scale attack in the country. While all this may seem to be along the lines of paranoid thinking, more evidences over the years have been revealed providing these suspicions valid. According to the notes of a former KGB archivist, the KGB did form elaborate plans to sabotage American infrastructure from the inside should a full-blown war break out. Most KGB teams hid within the borders of Canada and Mexico, but have already smuggled weapons into the US through illegal channels. Among their potential targets included military bases, dams, pipelines, and the power grid. Number 5, the US government plotted to commit domestic terrorism and blame it all on Cuba. The thought that a government would be willing to bring death to innocent people to bring down an enemy is hard to stomach, but the US Department of Defense, the CIA, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff had once intended to do just that. During the Cold War, Communist Cuba under the leadership of Fidel Castro was seen as a serious threat to the US. So we attempted to remove Castro from power during the Bay of Pigs invasion back in 1961. However, when this operation failed, the Joint Chiefs of Staff approved Operation Northwoods, which entailed orchestrating a communist Cuba terror campaign in Miami as well as in other cities in Florida. This campaign involved ordering U.S. operatives to sink boats transporting Cuban refugees and even hijack planes. Their goal was to convince the American public to support waging an all-out war against Cuba. This plan, however, was rejected by civilian leadership during the Kennedy administration and was kept under wraps for decades since the proposal was both horrific and embarrassing. Number 6. U.S. forces orchestrated fake attacks in the Gulf of Tonkin to justify the invasion of North Vietnam. In 1964, then U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson disclosed to the public that the USS Maddox and USS Turner Joy had an encounter with North Vietnamese forces while patrolling South Vietnam. The confrontation led to the sinking of at least 2 enemy boats and was also the catalyst of the escalation of the Vietnam War, as public outrage pressured Congress to pass a resolution that allowed U.S. forces to attack North Vietnam. Later, it was revealed that there were actually no enemy vessels during that alleged encounter in the Gulf of Tonkin. What they were firing at were just phantom targets, but this fabricated battle ended up sparkling a bloody war that extinguished the lives of more than 3 million people. And finally, number 7, the falsified testimony of a young girl to influence public opinion on the Gulf War. In 1990, the world was moved by the testimony of a young girl named Naira before the Congressional Human Rights Caucus about the atrocities committed by Iraqi invaders against the Kuwaitis. She described how the Iraqis were responsible for so many abuses and violent deaths, including removing newborn babies from incubators and leaving them to die. However, after the war, the New York Times revealed that Naira was not a poor victim in Kuwait, but was actually the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador to the US. Her appearance and speech before Congress was actually arranged by a public relations firm. It was meant to increase public support for the Gulf War. So in conclusion, considering how many conspiracy theories of the past turn out to be true, it's really not surprising that more and more people are developing suspicious and paranoid mentalities and viewing government institutions. And these thinkings and paranoia have even slowly become more normal and mainstream, which is really sad, right? Because now we're really weary of our own government that's supposed to protect us and take care of us. And now we have a hard time trusting that our world leaders really have our best interests at heart. But anyway, I've been getting a lot of requests to talk about conspiracy theories, which I have done. And of course, most of them are speculations, so I wanted to do a video about conspiracy theories that were actually real. So hopefully you guys like this video. Thank you all so much for watching. See you later.